All right. So Blanca, at the very beginning, I normally ask some folks that come on this podcast how they ended up coming to Port Lavaca. Like, what's their story that, ended up having them come here to lay down roots. So that's my first question for you. How'd you end up coming here to Port Lavaca?
Well, when I came to Port Lavaca, I remember I was very young. I was 21.
Wow.
With a 2 months baby. So very unexperienced. And I never thought I was going to stay in Port Lavaca. It was just for my husband's job at Formosa.
Mm-hmm.
So we stayed. It's been 21 years after, so.
21 years and counting after, hopefully in that time you're thinking it was just going to be like a brief job.
I was thinking maybe 3 or 4 months, but it's been 21 years already. So.
Yeah, your oldest son is now older, and you also have another son, correct?
Yes, that 12-year-old, Andres.
Yeah.
He's a good boy. And Ricardo's also a good boy, good son.
Yeah, family of 4. And as you've been living here in Port Lavaca, at some point you ended up having this realization that you were good at a particular craft and you wanted to make it into a business. And for you, how did you get started on that process here in Port Lavaca?
Well, I remember I was working at the nursing home here in Port Lavaca, and I was the activity director. At that time, that was 12 years ago, almost 13. And I had my youngest son, that he's 12 now.
Mm-hmm.
He was 2 months, and I decided to quit and started another kind of business, because having a baby and working 12 hours or from 8 to 12 hours is hard.
Oh my gosh.
So
yeah.
I had to quit to take care of him. So I started a business at home. So
It started off at the home, and how long were you doing this business at home, and what all did you do with that business?
Well, I started, I remember my sister got married, and we all had to buy dresses,
mm-hmm.
and we couldn't find dresses. It's so hard to find dresses. So I thought, well, I'm going to quit this job, and I'm going to start selling dresses at home. I thought it was a good idea, an easy idea. I was still young, so.
Right.
And it started, I quit. I started staying at home in my living room in the front of my house. I closed it, and I bought dresses, jewelry, purses, and stuff like that, and I started selling that at home.
Wow. So at what point did you feel like you were learning that there were some more things that were required to run a business like that? Like, because I know you said you were like, it sounded easy enough, but then you started it, and then there was like, oh no, like this actually takes some more work than I thought.
Well, when you start a business, you always think, especially when you're young, you always think you're gonna get rich or you're gonna make a lot of money, and that it's easy, and it's not. I started dreaming, dreaming that I was going to be famous and make more money, and and then I decided to get out of the house.
Right.
And start renting a place.
Mm-hmm.
So I stayed at the house about 2 years, and then I started renting somewhere else.
So when you rent out, so like let's say you're someone here in Port Lavaca and you want to start a business, and the next step you got to make is finding a place to have your business, like renting a place. What's that like? Like what does someone need to do? Is it as simple as making a phone call and seeing what's available, or what actually happens?
Well, it's not easy. First, you have to have money to put it down, a deposit,
mm-hmm.
and since you're at home, is maybe most of the time when you start a business, you don't make money.
Right.
It has to pass time so you can start making money if the business goes good.
Right.
And I wasn't making money, so I was getting money, selling some stuff, and then buying more stuff. So I never really
that
had
profit.
money. Yeah, I never saw any profit on it. So I was making and buying merchandise.
Right.
So when I moved, I called somebody. I called a lady that I knew that she had this building, and she owned a daycare, and she was taking care of my older son.
Oh, okay.
So and she rented me a space next to her daycare, and I started there, and it was going good, but I had to pay rent.
Right.
I had to pay water. I had to pay light. So the money was for that. It was not for me.
Right. So everything you're just pouring to keep the business going, you know?
Yeah.
Was there a first sale that you made or like a first event that you did, or what was like one of the first experiences that you had that was like super positive that you said, man, I want to keep doing this because this is fun?
Well, we used to, during prom time,
Okay.
because we sell dresses and quinceañera dresses, wedding dresses, and prom dresses.
Right.
So during prom, we would sell a lot and make other crafts like corsages and boutonnieres. So we would make all that from scratch. That's when I would make more money.
Okay.
So
And so during that season, you would look forward to that kind of season?
yeah,
Okay.
every year before prom, at least 3 months before prom, I would start buying a lot of merchandise, a lot of stuff,
Right.
and waiting for that season.
Right. And so you were doing this with the first, well, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but so at this time you're working from your home, then you moved to a place. And then for how long were you at this place being able to do this business?
I was there for about, I think like 3 years.
Three
Then
years.
I moved to the next door that was bigger.
Oh, great. So you grew into a new location. So
I wanted more.
you wanted more.
I wanted more,
Yeah.
not knowing what I was going to get into.
Yeah. At this point, the name of your business is Blanca's Fashion Boutique.
Yes.
And so you're already acquiring, new clients, well, of course, with all that new opportunity, you were able to grow into a new place. So at that time, I mean, I would imagine it was a good feeling, right?
Yeah, I wanted to move to a bigger place, and when I moved to a bigger place, I started buying more stuff.
Gotcha.
It was a big, big place. We can say maybe 4,000 square feet.
Wow. I didn't realize it was that big.
Yeah,
That is huge.
it is.
Yeah.
It was. I had a lot of stuff, like a lot of merchandise.
Right. And so what were you hearing from the community since you had, that you were providing those kind of services? Like what were people telling you?
People they're always going to tell you you're doing good. They like what you have. But we need to remember that it's a small town, small community. And sometimes it's hard. It's hard to grow. It's hard to grow because sometimes instead of buying here, we go buy somewhere else. We go out of town.
Yeah.
So,
Those trips to Houston or
Yeah.
Corpus Christi or those kind of things.
but I would have some of the clients would, I like to talk to people. So I would make friends with a lot of people, and they would always come to me. They would always come to me.
You had your people you connected with. And so now at this point, were you also already like having people from Victoria come over here to you?
Yeah, they were starting to come from Victoria for dresses, kind of like dama dresses, like for quinceañera. When there's a quinceañera, there's 14 little girls that are gonna come out with you, your friends. So all those 14 girls would buy dresses from me.
Oh,
So that was 14 dresses plus the quinceañera dress. So that was pretty good.
so since many of us, right, we don't know what the logistics are with a specific business and this kind of like providing fashionable resources for people of all ages. But so you said you had to acquire a lot of things, like you were in a position where you had to keep buying to keep stock and keep supplies. So I mean, just off a few things you can think of, I mean, what were you having to keep just in stock and having to make sure that you didn't run out of to keep things going?
The thing with the buying dresses, the style always is gonna be over. So next year the style is not the same. So sometimes when you don't sell all your merchandise, everything that stays back is gonna stay there.
Wow.
But you have to keep buying and buying and buying.
Right.
So you might make money, but you're gonna invest it. But some of that invest is staying there because it's the clothes change, the dresses change,
Yeah.
the styles change, the materials, everything changes.
Fashion can be very finicky.
Yeah.
So then you're already thinking about next year. So you get done with one season, you're like, okay, that's great. All right, now I got to start looking at what the trends are going to be for next year. So they'll go to your place.
And I would get all the catalogs every 3 months. So every 3 months it would change. Like everything changed. So that's why it's so hard. The business is hard with that kind of business, clothing, because it changes.
Right.
It changes.
Did you ever get to a point where you had like a team or staff or people that were able to help you out, to do some of those things?
I always had this girl. And up to now, she still works with me.
Awesome. That's good news.
She was there all the time with me, and we were friends. But she was there with me, and I couldn't pay her a lot, but she was happy. She was happy to be with me all day. Because sometimes I would be there all day, and
Right.
I would receive not even one person. And sometimes it was days that you would receive a lot of people. But because you don't sell wedding dresses every day. Not every bit, like, that's not a thing that you need daily. So at some times there was more customers than others, but sometimes we'll be me and her there all day.
Wow. So even to
waiting.
this day, just hoping. Would you make calls? Like, would you guys call people to let them know or send them email? Like, what was y'all's strategy to try to like have people know that you guys were working on what you guys were doing for that season?
Usually we Facebook, and that's
Okay,
what I still
Facebook.
use Facebook, and that's what's working for me right now.
Okay.
Facebook, and then word of mouth.
Right.
Right now, I don't advertise no more because that it's enough. I have my hands full.
Yeah.
But back then, I would advertise, give cards, put flyers on cars and stuff like that. And when they had the parades, we would be on the parades with some girls already dressed with their wedding dresses.
Y'all had
and
y'all's
all
own
that.
little float?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, that's cool. Oh,
Yes.
that's right. Yeah, the Christmas parades.
We would do that. So my first, that was my first parade was like, I think 2010. So we were in one. And we had some girls dressed in quinceañera dresses, wedding dresses. So it was pretty fun. We had fun.
Yeah.
Maybe I wasn't making too much money, but we had fun.
Right. At that point, especially getting things up and going, there's so much that is a part of the grind. You're maybe not making the profit money wise, but you're learning, you're adapting, and so there's a lot of like, that's what they talk about, right? That's why experience is important. So you've been doing this for a while. Things seem like they're coming along. Was there a point with that first go around, that you finally were seeing that profit that you felt like you were working hard for, or during that first time with this first run, that wasn't the case?
I never saw a profit. All the profit that I was making, I was putting back into the business. So
Right.
that was a mistake.
Okay.
I made mistakes.
Gotcha.
I did make a lot of mistakes back then.
Yeah.
I learned from them, but I'm still going. So
Yeah. And I appreciate your openness, and because I know that can be a vulnerable thing to talk about. But I promise that there's people, and whoever may be listening, or even I myself can say, man, when do we not learn from mistakes that we make, because not every mistake that happens is done intentionally,
because people tell us, like, I used to remember that my mom or my dad would tell me, like, are you sure you're making money or you're making a profit? And I would say, yeah, I'm doing okay. So, but it's because we want to put everything into it. But sometimes we're so young that things are not the way we think. Things are different.
Yeah.
But we have to go through it.
Right.
To learn the experience, and if we're gonna fall and get up again, and we learn from that.
Right.
We learn that we're not gonna do it again.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and thank you for sharing your experience with that, because there's people I know and friends I've had and where they've definitely started a venture and hoping that it would go one way and then it doesn't go another, but it's important to continually, and I know you're going to talk about that too, where it's important to still do the best we can to learn from that and not be so hard on ourselves, because it's really easy to be hard on ourselves because we don't want people to know that things aren't going as good as we want them to.
We hide that part. We always, we might not sleep at night, but the next day we want to make everybody think that we are doing okay.
Yeah.
And we are not. And there's always people that can help us, but we don't understand back at that point. We don't want, I didn't want nobody to know that I wasn't making a profit or making it good in business.
Right.
So I wanted to do it myself.
Yeah.
So.
Totally. No, we're good at that. We're good at just saying, no, I just need a little bit longer. I'll
Yeah.
right the ship, and then no one would really know, and then everything will be fine. It's tough to communicate that to people,
Yeah.
because that's a position that no one wants to be in for sure. And not to continually pour salt in a wound here, but there were some other events that were outside your control that happened too as well. And so for those that may not know, that for us here in Puerto Vaca, we were grateful to have your business here for a few years but a few years in 2009, you had a pretty big event that happened, unfortunately, in your business. And if you're okay with sharing a little bit of that, what was that experience like for you?
One night, I remember that day I left to my mom's house in the valley. We went to visit my mom, and they called me on the phone, and they said that my business was on fire. That was at 8 at night. So we headed back. That was 4-hour drive. It was like so eternal, like the longest trip I had.
Just making those hours back.
Yeah.
I bet they felt, oh my gosh. Yeah. I bet they felt like forever.
And I felt like, and I was still thinking nothing's going to nothing's going to happen. I was making myself think that everything was going to be okay.
Okay.
But I couldn't, when I got back, I couldn't do nothing because it was already late.
Mm-hmm.
It was like 12. So I had to, in the morning, that night I didn't sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So in the morning when I went over there, everything was ruined. Everything was ruined, like nothing good. Nothing good. So I lost everything. I lost all the merchandise. I lost everything. I even lost my confidence on myself.
Yeah. Right. And at that moment, you were basically met with the reality that the business you've been working on for over 3 years, right, at that point,
Yeah.
was at that moment non-existent.
It was gone.
Totally gone. And I mean, I would imagine that week was one of the worst weeks ever.
A lot of my friends that would visit me at the business would say, we're going to start. Don't worry. They wanted to help.
Really?
You know
Okay.
what they did? They helped me get all the dresses. They had smoke. They didn't even cut fire, but smoke ruins everything.
Yeah. No,
It ruins everything. So they went in there and they tried to take all the dresses out and wash them, but it's not the same. They smell. They tried to help me, but I said, well, and they gave me. They would say, you're gonna be okay. We're gonna help you. Everybody, they were there for me. And I said, okay, we're gonna start. I'm gonna start from zero again.
Yeah.
So I started again.
So they gave you some of that confidence back.
Yeah.
That's
They
awesome.
were good. I had a lot of friends, a lot of good people they would go and visit me every day at the store. I might not have a customer one day, but I had friends coming to visit.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad you shared that part too, though, because that shows the importance of having friends and people in your corner. Because when we are at our lows and we are experiencing hard things, I mean, man, we have to have people in our corner. Of course, we have to allow ourselves to receive that, because it would be easy to push them away. It would be really easy to be like, no, I don't want to see anybody right now. Just go back home. I'm okay. I got it. Like, for you to receive that, that's important too. I'm glad that they pitched in.
yeah, they helped me. I remember they took out all the dresses. They took them to my house, and they bought the swimming pools, the plastic ones, the big ones,
Yeah.
and they filled them out of soap and water, and they started washing the dresses, and we sold them very cheap. But at least we sold them. People bought the dresses, but it was already a loss.
And this was the 4,000 square foot building?
Yeah.
Man, so you're probably just like, so at that point, you're renting from this place. What did the people who you were renting from expect from you because of that event? Like, did they say you were on the hook for it? Did they say that they were going to cover that, but you were just at loss with your business? Like, what happened?
Well, I remember the owner. It was a different owner than when I started renting.
Okay, so there was a change.
Somebody bought the building, and he was okay. He said, "No, don't worry. I'm gonna help you. Just move to the next door because the next door didn't cut fire, and start there. I'm not gonna charge you rent."
Really?
For about 6 months, he didn't charge me rent on the next door. So I started from zero again. I started with the same business, started buying merchandise again. It's a smaller, might have been we can say 1,000 square feet.
Okay.
So,
but just to have that chance again to start over, because that could have easily just been the end of it.
yeah.
So what was it aside? I mean, I know you said they gave you some confidence to start again, but then at what point did you feel like you were ready to try to do this again?
I wasn't ready to give up.
Okay. So at that point, you're
I
just
didn't
like,
want it to. I was still thinking, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make a lot of money. I was still thinking I could get up again.
okay. So you were able to move next door, and was there in that 6 months? I mean, did you already feel things picking up, or did it take longer for things to pick
It started
up?
going better. We started. We're still doing crafts because we used to make like sign-in books for parties, bouquets, corsages. Too many. We did a lot of stuff. The pillows for the church, like for
Oh yeah.
all the ring bearer pillows, everything. We would make a lot of stuff for weddings and quinceañeras, and that was giving money because you make it from scratch. You don't have to buy a lot of stuff. You make it. So
I can't believe I haven't asked this yet, but better now than never. How did you learn how to do all this?
I didn't know how to do it. That friend of mine that would work with me, when she was in Mexico, she used to work at a place where they sell ribbon and all that stuff, and she would do bows and all that. And she showed me how to do it.
Awesome.
And then later, like as years passed, he said, "No, you're getting better than me," because you get better when you start practicing something.
Right.
You get good. You
Yeah.
get to be good.
So many people, have picked things up to try, right? I think, and I've been there too. I've picked up something, I wanted to be good at it, and then I did it, and it just didn't come out great.
Yeah.
And it's tough whenever you're like, well, eventually, you either leave it alone, you don't touch anymore because you didn't have a good experience, or you double down and you get better. And I feel like you're in a situation where, since it was a business, there was probably like a lot of motivation. Like, I have no choice but to get good at this because this is my life,
Yeah.
So you just kept pressing through that and eventually got pretty good at the craft there.
And back then, there's not like
YouTube or anything.
No,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you have to learn it yourself. Like there's no YouTube that's gonna show you how to do all that stuff. Now, if you want to cook something, you just go to YouTube and it's there. They'll show you how to do it. So
Yeah, there's lots of people who are probably learning how to change a tire for the first time by watching YouTube and just getting after it. So yeah, we're blessed to have that now. But like you said, you didn't have that then.
So I learned and I got to be good on that. Up to this day, they still call me to do bouquets and signing books. They still remember, but I don't do it no more because I don't have time.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. My hands, they hurt because of all that work that I did with the crafts.
Yeah.
So
It's thousands and thousands of hours.
yes,
Yeah. You eventually were able to keep the fashion boutique going now. Was it a little bit longer this time? Or was it?
I think it went after the other one caught fire. I stayed there for 6 months. That I didn't pay rent, and then in total like a year and a half, and it caught fire again.
A year and a half.
A year and a half, and it caught fire again.
So for those listening, I just want to make sure that we, are communicating exactly what you heard. What you heard is that
It was twice.
not just once,
Twice.
but twice your business caught on fire. I mean, it just seems like cruel luck at that point, right?
Yeah. The first time was devastated. The second time, I wasn't. I was like, okay, I'm not going to start from zero no more.
Right.
I'm going to do something else. I'm going to go home, stay with my family, do what I have to do, put more attention on my family, my house, my home. I felt like the need to be at home, to be more like a housewife, like be there for them.
Right. Because at this point, you still have your two sons who are getting older, and so there was that need there too, and your husband, and so up to this point,
what probably contributed to you feeling that way was because the business was just really busy for you, right?
Yeah.
And so that was just kind of like taking any time you had was just going to that.
I would leave the house at 9:30 in the morning, and I wouldn't be back until 7. And sometimes if a customer was there at 7 and he would leave at 9, I would get home at 9. So it wasn't, I can say it wasn't worth it. Because leaving your family by themselves at the house, with your husband, your kids, it's not good. The business is not going to bring you nothing better than a family. The family is always more important than anything else.
Right.
Your time with your family, you can't buy it nowhere.
Right. And that's always going to be true, no matter how successful you are. You know, like just because, let's say it was a business that made millions of dollars, that wouldn't make what you just said any less true. Because that's time you'll never get back. And so this isn't me saying that for those who start a business and do businesses, you're making a bad decision because you're, leaving your family out of the picture, but it's just the call to action that we need to always remember, that there has to be a balance, because if you lose that balance, eventually you get burned out.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to wonder what was worth it or what wasn't, at that point. So at that point you're saying something's got to give.
What I thought when the second time it caught fire, and I thought, like, this is not for me. I need to go home. God wants me with my family. So I'm going to be with my family, and I'm going to do something else. Like
Start over
again from zero.
Yeah. So at that point you were ready to be able to just kind of start a new life. And unfortunately though, you weren't really let off the hook that easy. Are you comfortable with sharing some of those experiences? So, just a heads up for those that may be going into business and wanting to start something, and especially when you have to work hard just to get to a position where you're making a profit. If you're not turning in a high volume of profit, and it has to be a high volume to offset the expenses, because sometimes I think we think of like our personal expenses, like with the house, where you have groceries, you have electrical bill, you have, if you have a credit card, you want to make sure that you keep up with paying it off, and so that's a very small scale compared to a business. A business, it doesn't take much at all to rack up lots of money, to lenders or whatever it may be, because when you buy things in volume, which you had to do, those are bulk prices. So the from what I understand, and I know you can share more of the details, but you want to start a new life, or in a way kind of turn a new chapter, but you still had all this stuff that you owed still sitting there.
Because when I started the business, I didn't have the money to start a business, but I had good credit. So I started buying merchandise, lots of stuff on credit, not knowing what was going to happen, that I was going to lose everything. So if I don't have the merchandise, I don't have this business to make the money to pay those lenders. Where am I going to get the money from? I don't have it. It's gone. It burned down. Everything burned down. How am I going to pay all that? So I wasn't able to pay my minimum payments. Like, I was devastated. That was the first time it caught fire. I was devastated, and I couldn't keep up with the payments.
Right.
Even that we washed all the dresses and we sold them, but we sold them for very little price. We gave them away, we can say.
Right.
So I started getting depression, lots of depression. I didn't even want to leave. I even wanted to commit suicide, not wanting to be in this world, because when people call you they want their money, they're always calling you. You're even scared, and I know a lot of people are gonna feel the same way. They might feel the same way that I felt back then. Right. Right now, I'm doing good. God has been good to me, but I know a lot of people feel the same way. I know people, they're struggling the same situations that I was back then. Maybe not because of the business, but other things that happen.
Right.
They might owe money, because of the pandemic.
Right
A
now.
lot of people lost their jobs.
Yep.
And those credit cards are still wanting their money. Those lenders, they still want their money. Those mortgages, they want their money. But somebody told me it's not worth it to commit suicide.
Right.
Because it's not gonna fix anything. Remember, your kids are gonna stay here. Your husband is gonna be there too. And some of those things that I owe, they were under my husband's name.
Oh no.
So it was both of our names.
Right.
So it was not fair
Right.
for me to live this world and leave it to him.
Mm.
So somebody told me, you're not gonna fix anything. You're just gonna be gone, and your kids are gonna suffer. But there's always a solution. There's always a solution. And it's not the end. Because when things look the worst, or when the night is darker, it's because the sun is coming. It's gonna get to be the day. It's already gonna be the morning. They say when it's darker during the night, it's almost like 3, 4,
Right.
and that's when the day is coming already, like 6. At
Right
6,
there.
the sun is coming. Something new is coming. Maybe not the next day, but soon God is gonna help you.
That was very well said, and thank you for sharing that, because many people who may have a hard time communicating that they're in that position, even at this moment, or have and maybe didn't have someone to communicate or talk to. That's important to know. I like that. It's like when the night is darkest, the sun is there waiting.
Yeah, it's coming. It's just pushing the moon or something. I just know it's gonna be shiny.
Right.
It's a new day, a new beginning. And it might not be this year, but next year.
Right.
Sometimes we lost our job or we owe so much, but it's not the end. It's not the end. It's not the reason to commit suicide. It's not. Because everything has a solution.
Yeah. And I'm glad you had someone to talk to. That's great that they shared with you some good insight to let you know that we, for one, need you.
And sometimes some people told me to go into bankruptcy, but sometimes when you're so proud of your credit, you don't want to do that. Like I feel bad to do that, and that was one thing I could do, but I didn't do it. I remember at one point, I owe a lot of money.
Right.
We can say 100,000.
Wow.
That's a lot of money. Wow. But I remember one day I was so tired of not being able to answer the phone without thinking that somebody was going to ask me for their money.
Right.
And I remember that day I got in, I was crying.
Yeah.
I was crying.
It's overwhelming.
And I was washing dishes. I remember that day. And I said, I was washing the dishes and the knife was there. And I was by myself.
Dang.
I wanted to kill myself. And I said, and I really heard that voice that said, do you think this is going to fix everything?
Right.
It's not. You're going to leave your kids and your husband on the back with everything, suffering for you. And I got on the floor. I remember that day I got on the floor and I put my head on the floor. I threw myself on the floor and I started crying. And I said, God, when is this going to end?
Yeah.
How long is this going to go? I am tired. I want to pay everybody, but I can't. I don't have the money.
Right.
It's embarrassing. I said, my Lord, it's embarrassing that people are following me. I don't want to live a life like this. Well, I threw all my tears and everything that I wanted to, and I got up and continued. And 3 days after that, I remember I received a letter from a bank. And by that time, I received a lot of letters from different lenders. They wanted their money.
Yeah.
And I remember that I didn't want to open that letter. Because sometimes I wouldn't even open them.
Yeah.
But something told me, open it anyway, you can't do nothing. So I opened that letter, and in that letter, it said they erased my debt.
My goodness.
They erased $35,000.
Wow.
And that was, at that time I said, God, you are so awesome. I don't know how you do all these things, but you're the creator.
Yeah.
So he did that for me.
In the letter, did they say why?
They just erased the. No, it just says your debt is erased.
Wow.
It's not. I didn't owe their money no more.
Wow.
And it was a bank. It was 35,000. 10 days after that, I received another letter from another bank.
Yeah.
So it's I owed. It was another letter, the same one, same as that one, but from another bank. They raised me $15,000. But all I could say that at that time, all I could say is I would give thanks to God.
Mm-hmm.
I would give thanks to God because it was all his. It was him.
Wow. Man, we don't know what other people have going on, and the vulnerability that you've been able to be comfortably sharing with, and again, I'm grateful for. I know can be a benefit to somebody because you have a real experience really happen, consequences of a fire and trying to keep up with the business, led to some things that were, just overwhelmingly heavy. And we're people, we're humans. I mean, we have like a certain degree of capacity on being able to handle things like that. I mean, that would be overwhelming for 10 people to handle, much less one person. And so you had all that weight on you. And it's a beautiful thing to hear that there was, some weight lifted. And I know you shared before we were recording about how long this was going on, but the reason it was exceptionally tiring too was because for how many years was this going on?
Well, since the first time it caught fire, I think from 5 to 7 years. So.
Wow. So between 5 to 7 years after that, you were having to, navigate these calls and yeah, they're persistent at all hours.
Sometimes those lenders, they don't even. It's not even them calling you because your debt is sold to somebody else.
Right.
So they're the ones calling you all the time, and they trade you.
Yeah.
They trade you that they're gonna send you somebody to the house, and they're gonna do these, or they're gonna take you to court. They trade you, and that's one thing they push you to do, to commit suicide or do other things, but it's not worth it because they can't do nothing to you.
Right.
They can't.
It's
not worth it to commit suicide, or everything has a solution.
Right. There was a person I knew in college. They had, just like many college students, some student loans. Well, I guess they had stopped going to something like that happened where they're on the hook for the loans. They didn't pay the loans, and it went to someone else. And then I think it got picked up by like a scammer too. So there's like scammers out there, of course, that were trying to do some crazy things. And they say the most volatile things. Like this person was working at a daycare, and so they're on the phone and they're calling her and they're saying, hey, we're going to show up at the daycare and we're going to embarrass you. And, we're going to make you get arrested at the daycare, just obscene, crazy things. And when you get stuff like that day and night, over and over, it's exhausting, and you can change your number. And then, some people, they've changed their number and somehow it still gets found out, and it's intense, but you navigated that until you got to a point where you're able to find some relief. So I just want to say, Blanca, you're a strong woman. You're very strong because, in the middle of all that, you're a wife, you're a mother, you're not just a business owner, you're more than that, but that was a big part of your life that leaked over, and affected you. But I'm very glad to hear that you fought through that. That's powerful. Wow. From that point on, how was that break of being, kind of untethered? Like, what'd you find yourself doing since you weren't running a business?
After that, I went home, and I stayed home, and I started decorating.
Okay.
So I changed the name of my business from Blanca's Fashion Boutique to Blanca's Event Decor. And I started at home, and I had my office in the front. When you come into my house, there's my office. And
right there from your home.
Yeah. It doesn't even look like a business. It's a house.
Yeah.
It's a house, but God has blessed me there. It started going good. my business up to now is going really good.
That's great.
So I decorate a lot of quinceañeras, a lot of weddings, baby showers. I rent linen, tablecloths, cover chairs, a lot. We can say from 1 or 3 events a weekend.
Wow.
So
Oh my gosh, that's busy.
it is very
Man,
busy.
no wonder.
We can say this
Yeah.
year we have about 50 events coming.
Oh my
just this year.
gosh. So even with COVID, did it go down during COVID?
I rested for 8 months, and that was like I needed to rest.
Okay.
It was business was busy. So when I got to rest 8 months, that was like good for me.
Okay.
It was like a vacation
You
that
felt-
haven't had in years.
Wow. So you
But-
felt recharged
Yeah.
because in a way it was like it was outside your control.
Yeah.
You know, so you're like, well, I'll rest then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I started at home with the decorating. I remember one day, one of the ladies that was getting married, she went to my business and she asked me if I can do a bouquet. So what she was requesting, I couldn't do it. It had crystals. It was something so expensive. So I went to the valley and went to a place where they sell dresses, bouquets, and all that stuff. And the owner of the store said, he asked me where I live, and I said in Por La Vaca.
Right.
And he said, well, you know what? Do you want to decorate events? I said, no.
Mm-hmm.
I have a baby. Andres was small.
Right.
I said, I have a baby. And he said, well, my kids were small, and I used to decorate. I don't want to do it no more because that person, he has a lot of money now.
Okay.
He's rich.
Yeah.
So he didn't want all the columns and all the linen and all that stuff he had. So he sold it to me. And I remember I bought everything, and I didn't even know what I was buying. It was like a puzzle, like with a lot of things. I remember we brought 4 big U-Hauls, the 30-feet U-Hauls,
Oh my gosh, 4 of those?
for those, full of columns and lots of stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't even know where that thing, but everything went, like how to decorate, how to put it together. But he gave me pictures.
Okay.
So when I went home, I started decorating little by little. But it like we can say about 4 years ago, it started picking up like real good,
Right.
a lot. And I do decorate a lot. But I know a lot of people, and I know a lot of. I have made a lot of friends,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's very important because I always share my story,
Right.
and I think I can help a lot of people.
Yeah.
I've been helping people with their problems, with their struggles, and I try to tell them what I went through, and that is not the end. It's
Right.
not the end, because God is always preparing us for something. All that happened, it was because something better was coming. I never imagined. What I dreamed at the beginning, that's what I have now.
Yeah.
But now if I lose it, I'm not going to cry.
Right.
Because already it's gone. Like
Yeah.
everything has to get to an end.
Mm-hmm.
If I lose it now, I'm gonna be okay. Because it's not the most important thing.
Right.
You know, back then that was the most important.
Right.
But now that's not the most important. But
It's-
God showed me that
Yeah.
what to put together first. It's God, then my husband, and then my family.
Yeah.
So,
Man, the good thing is that it's always an opportunity to learn, and it's always an opportunity to grow. And thank you for sharing, because for me, I know there's a lot of things to learn from your experiences as well. Like you said, when you started off young, the reality of just certain things that come into a business were not all present, but you were able to experience and learn and adapt into the next one, and then the next one. And now you find yourself in a place where you're like, oh yeah, this is what I was wanting all along.
yeah.
And you're not having to you're having to work hard, but you're not having to force it to be what you want it to be. It's what you want it to be.
And then you say, like me, I sometimes say, where all this creation came from. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes we make decorations that you cannot even imagine how pretty they look, but
Yeah.
it's what God gave you along the way. But you have to pass through so much to be prepared for these.
Right.
for what what's going on right now. Because if that would have God would have given you that at the beginning,
Right.
maybe you were lost. You would get lost. I would have been lost already, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Without a family, but with a business. Now I know that my business is not before nothing, not before God or my family. And God has blessed me. He has blessed me and my family. So we can pay our bills.
Yeah.
So if we get sick, we can pay for the doctor.
Yeah.
So God has been good. Well, we try to stay I try to stay on God's side.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm very, very grateful that you're in a place where you can have, it doesn't have to be an either or thing. You're able to experience your family and your spiritual walk in life and still do what you love here. And that's a big win. That really is. That is. Before going, I just kind of still want to just throw it to you. I mean, is there something else that you are wanting to share with those who may be listening, that's on your heart, that you're saying, hey, you know what? This is something that I want to pass on to other people. I know you shared already some good ones, so maybe you have already hit what you wanted to talk about, but still just wanted to ask you before going.
Sometimes we think we don't have nobody, but we always have somebody.
Okay.
We just don't see it. Sometimes things happen, and we need a friend. We need a sister in Christ, somebody to go to. Not keep it for yourself, because it's no good. It's not good. To have somebody on your side to give you a hug, because it works. It helps when you feel somebody's love when you're devastated, when you think you don't have nothing else to do in this world. Somebody that's to be there for you. You need to tell somebody. I was keeping it to myself. I couldn't sleep. But there's always somebody that cares for you. Even when you think you don't have nobody, it can even be somebody that's not even your family. Somebody's going to be there for you.
Right.
You need to go to somebody, to your pastor, a church, a sister in Christ, or a friend.
Right.
Somebody has to be there for you. Because it's hard to go through that by yourself.
It's too much.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's too much to do that. It's nice to have people that they celebrate when things are going good, and they're also there to be that shoulder to help you through those hard times too. To have people, it's no small blessing. I know some people sometimes we don't see the people that are in our lives too. It's easy to take them for granted, or it's easy to not think of them as the pillars in our life that they are. And to be able to, I guess, for me, I would say there's a lot of wisdom in what you shared, because if we're already establishing that relationship with them, it's good to already have that like strong and strengthened now, so that you can go to them whenever things are hard, instead of like guessing, because sometimes we can say, well, I don't want to bother them, I don't want to call them, they don't want to hear that, it's like, if you can already have that in your mind, like, no, I can, then it's a little bit easier to do that when the situation comes up.
And I don't know if you have experienced this, but sometimes you have friends you haven't seen for years, but they're your friends.
Yeah.
You can even call them, because they're going to be there for you.
Yeah.
Sometimes you haven't seen a friend that was your best friend. He's still your friend. You can call them, and they're going to be there for you. Because sometimes those old friends, they're the ones that are there for us.
Yeah.
Because the love is there.
Right.
The relationship is there. It's just that distance. Sometimes distance or life. But they're still there for you when you need somebody too.
Right.
Your sisters, your brothers, your parents, people from church.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that can help.
I'm really glad you shared that. So this is going to be encouragement for us, that whenever we have the time, to maybe update our contacts and remember that it doesn't hurt to say hi and keep up in touch with our people.
And it feels so good when you get to hear a friend that you haven't seen in years.
Yeah.
You still love him. It's the same love there, but you haven't seen them. And the time is, we're always running.
Yeah. We're always running.
Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy to say this, but like for me, it's already been, 10 years since my graduation, going on 11 years. And I have had some of those moments where I've caught up with people I haven't seen. It's been since graduation. I've seen some people recently that I haven't seen for 10 years. Some for 5 years, some for 3 years, but some people, yeah, it's like you don't miss a beat. You're just like, oh man, it's like we hung out last week. You still have that connection there.
And you see them as like you said, like it was yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's good to be able to believe in that too. Well, hey, I just want to say, Blanca, I appreciate your story, and I appreciate you, just for one, everything that you went through, has just shown that you're a very strong individual. And I mean but also that it's okay to admit when we're not strong too. Yeah. Because I think that's where we get true strength. Yes. Being able to learn in those moments and say, okay, you know what? This isn't how I want it to be. I'm not where I want to be, but what now? And then just allow that to, open a new opportunity down the road. But no, I'm glad you fought through it. I'm glad this is your story. I'm glad it didn't go down the other roads that would have been just, laid out in tragedy. Thankfully, yeah, things, led up to this point now where you're like, I'm glad I'm here, where I'm able to experience my family, my friends, my loved ones, and do what I love. Those are all precious things.
Yes, they are. That's the most important part of everybody's life.
Yeah.
The company.
Right.
The family. People. It's what's important.
Mm-hmm. So. Well, hey, thank you so much for your time, Blanca.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure coming. Hey. I told you I was nervous because of my English. It's not my first language, but I'm trying.
You've done very well. No, honestly, well done. I'm really proud that, you went ahead and went on, because I know for me, I would easily be nervous too. And to me, you 10 out of 10 did awesome. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.